Welcome.
Thank you.
I actually heard this is the first time you're on stage together.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We do a lot of things together, but never on stage.
Where is your daughter now? Who's taking care of her?
She's with a friend at home watching Fuck You Goethe, I think. Because it's just nearly the last week of school, and she just had a big day today, and she's there with her friend and her grandfather. She wanted to come first, but now she decided it's too hot and maybe it's boring.
I totally get her.
And actually, I think I was supposed to pick her up, but that wasn't 100% clear. So on the way here, we decided that we call her and ask again, and then she wanted to stay home.
So, but like 2 high performance careers and a family, is it really happening? Or do you actually see each other once a year at Christmas Eve?
I go first. So it's true. We both work full time, and we both have like very exciting but also challenging jobs. But we make sure that whenever we can, we are home by 7 or 7:30 every evening. So it means we cut on parties and networking events, and also we very much tend to have the weekends free. It could be that there's a call or something to prepare, but then we let each other know, and we really make sure that we have a lot of quality time as a family.
It's usually, we try to have dinner together. That usually works. I mean, with the board position, it changed a little bit, I'd say. We weren't 100% sure how much it did. So a bit more and more meetings and a bit more traveling. But yes, usually trying to have dinner, I'd say 3 times a week.
Yep.
I think that is a lot. That's probably, I don't think there's many other families who do manage that so often. But that sounds, you didn't have to send your daughter off to boarding school to
No, and
your career.
I wouldn't want that, but I mean, it's also a matter of, we set the priority to do that. Of course, we always have enough work to stay longer in the office, and sometimes one of us is coming in complaining about all the stuff that's still going on in the office, but I think it's really important that you draw a line somewhere and say this is important to us, and either there's something that's very, very urgent and then everyone understands, or family goes first then.
And what kind of support do you have to do that? Like, are the grandparents close by, or do you have, 3 nannies or whole teams, or what is like the support network that you use?
Now, well, I mean, we have, what would you call it, a cleaning lady or whatever, a housekeeper. I mean, she comes now every day. So that was the first thing that we changed when you went on the board, I think, that we have a housekeeper every day, and we have someone taking care of Greta whenever there's a need. But that's a little bit more irregular. And what we actually did is that we resettled the grandparents. So I'm an only child. My parents were in Kassel. In the middle of Germany, and they're getting older, and I said, okay, there's no way we can take care of them, and on the other hand, they can maybe help us a little bit, so we actually moved them to Berlin, and we did the same to your dad.
With my dad, yeah.
Oh, so you gathered the whole family in Berlin? In the same house, or?
No, they are close by.
Close by.
And they love Berlin, so it was a good decision for all of us. So, but it was a great move also because, they now have quality time with their granddaughter, which otherwise wouldn't have happened.
Was there ever the question, career or family? How did you discuss it? Did you plan it? Did it happen and you had to grow with it? Or how did you?
Because I think just to fill the audience in, I think your daughter is 14 years old?
No, she's 11.
11. Oh, so 11. So,
yeah.
But you already were in quite successful careers when you got your daughter.
Yes, and also my startup phase was when she was very little. So yes, but to come back to your question, I think no, I never sat down saying, okay, do I want this or that? We met each other when we were both at McKinsey, and of course, when you work at McKinsey, of course, you have some sort of ambition, what you want to do in your professional career. So I only know him in overdrive, and so I knew what to expect, but. For me, it was never the question either or. It was more like, okay, I want to have kids, I want to be happily married, and I want to have an exciting job, and then see how it goes. So it was never like prioritize the one over the other.
So you kind of jumped into it together. You said, okay, we want both. Let's do it. Let's figure something out. Let's get those. You have shared agendas, I think.
Yes. I mean, yes. I mean, when it comes to organizing, again, I mean, we have assistants, personal assistants. They have a shared calendar, so we know when someone is away that either the other one needs to cover, or if not, we need to have a babysitter. But actually, it's really, really rarely that we need a babysitter. Usually, one of us is there. I take her to school. Long story short. So yes, you arrange like that, but. I mean, you were out, I think, 6 months.
When Greta was born.
When Greta was born, but that was basically it. And then...
Yeah.
You just mentioned that you just launched your startup when or it was very young when your daughter was born. So how much time did you spend at home? Or how did you cover the very important first
Or did you just take her with you?
Yeah, it was more like she was, I think, 2 years or 1.5 years old when I founded the startup. Before, I was with a great company, which was eBay. So they were like, okay, you just do. I mean, if you want to come back and you figure out that it works better with home office or whatever. So it was very flexible. And then when I founded Miraporo, very often I took her also to the office, and the office was close by to where we live. But of course, I had also support from a nanny at that time, and but I saw her quite regularly, I would say.
I know my girlfriend, who's a freelancer, she once went to a meetup in Berlin where it was about female entrepreneurs from Tel Aviv meeting some from Berlin.
Yeah.
And she was really shocked because all the women she spoke to there, they said, I'm going for my career because I cannot have children and launch my startup. And she was really shocked because it was like, wow, impressed by that. So you would vote for the opposite. You would say it is possible as a female entrepreneur to have a family, a young family, and at the same time run a successful startup?
I mean, I cannot decide for other women. So if they feel more comfortable by focusing on one or the other, it's okay. But my heart would break if women would say, okay, if I want to have a startup, it's not possible to have a kid. That would be very sad, I think, because, I mean, I had a very good team spirit at Miraporo, so that people knew that there are other things in my life that are also important. Of course, I'm in a great relationship because Mirko always made sure that whenever something is going on in our family, it's not that he looks at me saying, yeah, you figure it out, and if you need help, ask me. It was always clear that it's a team and that we are in this together. So, and also what I did was, with my investor at that time, but also when I took the job now at Axel Springer, that I said, you know, I will work a lot and I'm highly professional and I love what I do, but in any case, if Greta is sick or if something's going on in school where I need to be because she plays piano or whatever, I will not disappoint her and I will put her first. So if you cannot live with this, maybe I'm not the right person, but I mean, it happens 3 or 4 times a year. It's not that it's always the case. And of course, we were lucky. I mean, there are kids that need a lot of attention because maybe there's something where they need special attention. But in our case, it was really
It was an
doable.
easy child, so to say.
I mean, maybe I should have brought her that you could see, but she was, in terms of, I mean, she made clear when there was something like having like a performance at school, she would be really sad if we wouldn't be there. So we always make sure that we are there. But other than that, she just gets along really well.
I feel like it's a shame that young women are afraid of getting pregnant because then their career would stop, or they're like, okay, I totally cannot plan on having kids because I want my career to happen. Do you feel like there's a link, or like there's still a lot of support missing? Do you feel like you have to organize everything by yourself and there could be more support from your employer? How do you see the situation in Germany in general? Because I feel like in the Scandinavian countries, they are much more open for working moms or dads.
Yes. Of course, I think when you look at culture and what's expected of employees and like how you handle like your family life, how much time you need to be in the office, I think we are not as advanced as in Scandinavia, but I think the trends are always going in the right direction, and I would also encourage not only moms but also dads to just speak up. I mean, sometimes it's even at Axel Springer that some of the women are really afraid because they expect that there will be a bad reputation or whatever, and I think for us there it's also good that I can act as a role model, and they see that I will leave the office at 6:30, or that I build things in my calendar around spending time with her, being at school when I need to be. I don't know, how is it at Mr. Spex?
I mean, we have, Dirk and myself, we're two co-CEOs. We both have kids, and we've got two female managers and on the C level that have kids, and there's a lot of kids on the heads level. Long story short, I think if you are passionate about your work and are good at it, there's always going to be a way to handle a time of like an outage of 6 to 9 or 12 months or whatever. I haven't seen that really crash a career ever before. I mean, I think it's you've got enough kitas. You at least in Berlin, it's not easy, but it is definitely possible to find the support that you need if you know what you want to do. And yes, maybe you lose half a year to a year in your career if you want, right? But you gain so much more, and that's it. That's the only thing that you lose, right? It's half a year or a year, and then you can, even if you do just 80%, that you can still achieve so much. I mean, if you take it not on a only personal level, but on a professional level, I think if you have a very clear vision and strategy of what you want to achieve, it is significantly easier to prioritize the daily hustle. And I think that's where you are exceptional. I mean, you've got such a clear vision and strategy of what you want to achieve, right? 1 hour more or less doing a day in a week doesn't make a difference at all. It doesn't even make a dent, right? Because the clarity of direction is so clear. And if you've got that, then anything can be shifted around for a day, half a day.
I think I want to jump spontaneously into what you just mentioned, that you said that you're really great in structuring and organizing. Since your careers are really in the same industry, more or less, do you benefit from that as a couple? Because you can come home and you can ask yourself questions, you might have the same challenges, or is it rather a problem because you never stop talking about work?
Now we talk, I mean, I don't know, we talk a lot. And the funny thing is that my PhD thesis was establishing a cross-channel media brand. So, and how do you make it possible that one media brand is successful in different media channels? That was my PhD thesis, and it's your job now. And the other way around, your job was how broadband is going to influence omni-channel retail, and that's my job now. So we were really into each other topics and made it our lifetime professional career to achieve the PhD topic of the other one. So we talk a lot. Right, we talk a lot.
So do you think that the partnership that you have is a big pillar of the career that you achieved?
Yes, I really like to discuss things with Mirko. The only one who puts sometimes a stop sign up is, of course, Greta. It's like, oh, you're so boring again. Talk about some, because sometimes we get carried away. But I mean, we are interested in what the other is doing. Although I have to admit, when I was in e-commerce, and you have been doing e-commerce, so when I was still with Mirapuro and you were already at Mr. Spex, sometimes it was too much because it was so close. I mean, when you then jump into performance marketing models and conversion rate optimizers in a store, sometimes I thought, oh no, I had this all day. Please just stop. Now that I'm in it, I mean, of course there are similarities, but the industries and the challenges are different. It's more like, okay, I really like to talk about something with Mirko because he's like a different angle on things and not so deeply involved in all the things. So yeah, that's
Was
cool.
there ever a situation where you really had to negotiate your career in the sense, because Axel Springer has I mean, is invested in a lot of startups. So, for example, did you have to choose a startup where you were like, they're not in competition to an Axel Springer startup or something, because otherwise you cannot talk about it at home anymore? Just NDA issues, for example. Like, were there things where you were going at it strategically?
I mean, when there are things that are really sensible, I will let him know. And then it's for me, I mean, of course, it's completely trust-based, and then it's okay. But of course, sometimes I have things with, I mean, one of his competitors is Fielmann. Fielmann is a big advertising client of mine. They are not happy that we are married, but they can't change it. I mean, it's, yeah, so sometimes they're, yeah, funny coincidences.
I think no, never so far, I think. And without ever having really talked about it explicitly, I think whenever whatever headhunter calls up, I think we've always ruled out really splitting locations.
Yeah.
Because that would make it really difficult.
I don't think that.
I don't think we could continue our style of living or whatever if one had to travel so much on a daily basis, because we were working in 2 different locations. That we kind of ruled out. It's got to be in Berlin.
Yeah.
So, did you have ever situations where your whole structure, your whole big organized structure did madly go wrong, and you had to, I don't know, break out of a big meeting and saying, okay, sorry, can't help it, I have to go home now because my house is burning down, or...
I mean, that's really this big crisis. I think it happened to me once or twice, but there was really this, I mean, every mom or dad knows it. You sit in a meeting, it's important, then you see the number who's calling, you know it's the Kita, and then you're like, maybe not good. Then you go out pretending you need to use the restroom or whatever, and then you get like, I mean, just a little emergency, but always my heart is racing, saying no, 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 no. And then sometimes, yes, I left the meeting. Sometimes even without saying goodbye, because Greta was sick, and then I just left, texted saying, okay, I need to be home, and Mirko did the same a few times. But what happens really regularly, and I think it's just Murphy's Law, that he has a very big meeting somewhere else, needs to take a flight or a train at 6:15, and I'm not there. And the one who very often covers for us is then my dad, because I wouldn't want Greta with 11 getting up by herself, making her breakfast, and then going to school, and then he's complaining all the time, saying, wow, what you do without me? And then we are really nice, and then he stays over and brings her to school. So we always manage. But you can really count on it that although 4 days of a week are free, the one day where I really need to be somewhere, and Mirko too, is very often but I just say, okay, it's like that, and we take it with a lot of humor most of the time.
And we never, and when that happens, I mean, she's been to the hospital a couple of times, right? Broke a leg, whatever. So someone had to go. No, Greta, our daughter. So, and usually it's just, I don't know, we SMS or we call quickly, and then we always arrange. One of us then picks her up, and there was never a struggle or an argument who now has to pick her up, because
that's for. I mean, I don't see so many women here, but I need to say it again. Look who you marry, because I mean, it's just so great whenever something happens that it's like we are always a team.
Be a good team.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a shared responsibility to have a kid, and it's not that. I mean, I love his career, he loves mine, but whenever a situation arises, we really have a very, I would say, neutral discussion on, okay, what's the best decision to make for all of us now? And it's not like that we fight who's more important, or in some relationships, it's always per default rather the mom, and then needs to convince the dad to do something. So watch out who you marry.
One thing that I would be interested in is, it seems to work with you because you seem to be equally invested, you're equally successful. One thing is like being a board member as a woman, but I think a lot of things is like, how as a man can you handle it if suddenly like your wife is so much more successful than you? I mean, imagine you wouldn't have that career, you just would, I don't know, work at the next bakery. You seem like somebody who could take it, but I guess might not be the same for every husband.
I mean, it is. I mean, you are. I mean, by all means of a classical career, you are much more successful. I mean, this is just on a much bigger scale. But I mean, you have to do what you like, right? And if you do that, you know, there's this Japanese thing of ikigai, right? Which I kind of like. If you have something what you like, right? And it's something where you're good at, and it does pay the bills, and maybe it's even good for society if you do that, right? And can make a living, then you're pretty much happy, right? And then if you have a partner that's great, then the chances are you're really happy, right? And then it's really disconnected from if the partner is more successful or not. I mean, you have to, any type of thinking in that direction is not going to drive your happiness in the right direction. And there's another good book, now I can talk about that all night long, but there's another good book from Christian Clayton, what was it, Clayton Christensen, the Harvard professor, and it's called How Will You Measure Your Life? And he looks at all those alumni meetings at Harvard and says there's so many people who are completely unhappy, either in their job or in their life. And one of the big contributors was that they only looked at external factors. They only looked at, you know, what's the name of the company, what's the pay rate, what's my career title. But that's not going to make you happy in any way. So and then it doesn't matter if your wife is a better or worse, whatever. You got to focus on the stuff that you like.
Are there things you would do differently now looking back? Are there any learnings you could pass on, things you were like, okay, I mean, that went maybe not as planned, or?
I mean...
More children?
That's a good one. Yes, the older I get, the more I'm a bit sad that we only have one kid. But for us, like the three of us, we really work well together. So for us, it's just... nothing to worry about there. But I think at first in the beginning, sometimes I was a bit too proud to get more help. But when, I mean, we explained a little bit about our private life, having like a housekeeper 5 times a week for half a day, having somebody who's picking up Greta if something is not working, then our 2 assistants that are really great and do stuff. And I think I could have asked for help earlier. I think before I was a bit too proud, saying, no, that's overdone, that's too much, I can handle it, it's not a problem. But it's, I mean, if you have people that want to help you, even if it's friends, it's family, whatever, let them help you, because it's just so much nicer.
So you're not fighting anymore about whose turn it is to fold the laundry or clean the bathroom, because that is solved.
That is solved but it's been solved now for a year. Before that, yes.
You've waited.
Yeah, I know, and it's a really great feeling. But to give you, I mean, when we didn't have Sibylle, I was nagging from time to time that
it wasn't too bad. It was okay.
Yeah, but I mean, doing the laundry, who's doing what, and so I think you got it right. I'm more the structured, organized. He's more the creative, free spirit. So I was the one being stuck with some of the things, and I was nagging from time to time. I know.
As like a follow-up question, specifically to what you mentioned with them asking for help, and that's a question maybe even to both of you as like, career and freelancer is, I know from my girlfriend, she certainly wants to have a career going and also have a child. She's also somebody who she needs to do her own thing as an entrepreneur.
You need to encourage her to do this.
But she didn't expect it to be so hard to actually give our son away. So she was like, oh, it's so cool, we have a babysitter, I can go to work. But then actually when the time arrived, she's like, oh, no, I don't want to leave. And then she really misses him. So is that something that, how was your experience with that, with giving your child away? And
I think it's, for me it was more like, I mean, I had those days, but there were always, sometimes also, to be very honest, there were days where I thought, wow, is this relaxing in the office? And I can just sit at this and read something just because I want to read it now. And I think for me, it was more like a rational decision. I mean, Greta being an only child, I was so happy when I saw her with the other kids, and that she's so easily making friends, and that she's learning a lot also from other people. So, yeah, but yeah, sometimes we miss them. We got, just this weekend, we got a question from our friends saying, oh, why don't you go away, just the two of you, like couple time and do this and that? And we both looked at each other saying, huh, without Greta? No, never. Why would we? And I think it's because whenever we have free time, we love to spend it with her.
We cut on party time. I mean, I worked in the music industry for
Yes.
5 years, whatever. So, I mean, but we really rarely go out and party. So I think we got plenty of time to spend with Greta. But that's, you only have 24 hours a day.
Are there more sacrifices? Not going to parties, I think that's a sacrifice, that's okay. But I don't know, do you have to cut back somewhere else? Friends, for example, or holidays, traveling? Is there like a bucket list that you couldn't check because of having a career and a family?
I mean, maybe even more true for me than for you, but I think in general, yes, friends has been getting harder. So the ones that we meet on a regular basis that are really close friends, but I'm not good at managing a whole network of nice people and getting new friends because my time is really limited there. So I think friends, yes, when you're asking it, yeah, it has gotten less. But travel, no, we travel with her. Of course, she's now in school, so we need to watch out for school holidays, but we travel together. I get up very early. I do my sports in the morning. So no, other than that, I would say it's friends and going out in the evening. Yeah.
I'd agree, because also, I mean, for me, it's Mr. Spex and then Caspar Feld as the strategy or branding consultancy and a little bit of rapid user tests. So there's a lot of stuff going on during the weekend as well. So, of course, there's a bit less. Sometimes I wonder because I get calls from my friends during the day. And I'm like, what are you doing during the day? I'm working, right? What do you call me during the day, right? So I don't know how it is with others, but from 8 to 7:30 or whatever, I don't have time for anything. And then in the evening, very often, it's then family time and dinner time.
I think we have around 5 minutes left, if I'm correct. So if there are questions in the audience, please raise your hand.
You can also, of course, ask about funding, about the businesses. Because we've been talking a lot about the family and career thing, but please feel free if you want to ask about their careers too.
No questions in the audience?
Everything's said.
Well then, do you have a last question, Romina?
No, I would have a point to make.
A point to make?
No, I think. I mean, we've been talking a lot about sacrifices, organization, structure. You need to do this to do this more and this less. But what's not really been pointed out is that having a kid is a big job, and I mean, especially for the first, I think, 3 years, it's a hard job. You don't sleep. You don't have time for yourself. Damn, I mean, I haven't been to pedicure since he's born, But what's never been mentioned is that it's also so much love that's coming into your life, and I wouldn't want to miss it. And I think it's kind of a pity that it's sometimes still asked to decide. Sometimes people still say, okay, you have to decide, you have a career or a kid, and I also think both is possible. Yes, you have to be organized a little more, and you have to do sacrifices, but there's so much love and so much joy joining your life, so it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. That's actually maybe as a closing question. Of course, like as a female board member, you're kind of a role model for other women to aspire that position as well. But do you actively also act as a role model for not only being a board member, but successfully running your family at the same time? Is it something you feel like that's a responsibility, that a message that you have to send out there? I mean, you're here today, of course, but do you use other opportunities to promote that?
Yes, when I first got promoted to the board, I didn't, because I thought that I mean, with the whole movement, I didn't feel that, I don't know, it wasn't mine. But when I then noticed over the last month how many women really approached me saying, it's so cool that you're now on the board and I need some more inspiration or advice, and what could we do at Axel Springer? I mean, when you look at our leadership team, of course it's getting better that we have more female in leadership positions, but of course there are much more men. Yeah, and I do a lot of things now to make sure that women connect, and that also when it comes to equal pay and careers, that we take into account that sometimes women maybe act a bit differently and sometimes have like part-time careers. So what we can do about this, this is really now a priority of mine. And I can only underline what you've said. You could even argue that parents could be better managers because they are not so focused 150% and really like not looking left and right, but because they have something else to really balance them, that it's not only lots and lots of love, but it could also be very good for the business.
So, well, thanks for joining us today, and for the first time probably not talk about your careers and your startups or your business, but about your private life. Thanks for sharing that on stage.
Thank you.
Stephanie and Mirko Caspar.